What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Today I'm going to talk about some meta-analysis. People in my last video commented that they wanted more videos like that. So I said, you know what? Let's get the people what they want. This is obviously going to be a breakdown post Order of Chaos. And I will say right now, my own ignorance has led me to neglect one deck up here. That's Wind-Ups. I'm just going to be upfront and honest about it. I don't know enough about the deck as a whole. Not the Wind-Up loop. I know that inside and out. But I'm talking about slower versions that run Wind-Up Factories and the new Wind-Up Shark card and stuff like that and so on and so forth. Like, I don't know how the deck plays. I know that, you know, obviously if you have the loop available with Rat, then you're going to use it to pick off cards in your opponent. But I don't know its good plays and, you know, the cards that hurt it. I heard Thunder King wrecks it, but I don't feel comfortable enough to really speak on the deck and its real potential. But I'm going to start with, these are the three decks that I think are going to be have the potential to stay tier 1 and be tier 1, and I think are going to be contending for the spot of best deck. Obviously, we start out with Rabbit, or for lack of a better word, basically Samurai 2.0. Because the deck plays exactly like Samurai, you basically want to make your boss monster, whether that be Lagia or Doka, and in whatever situation each card is best suited for, and you basically just want to sit on that, negate cards, and then try and make another one ASAP, and then just make small pushes with those boss monsters with your Leviers and your other Thunder Kings and stuff like that, and just close out the game. The one problem I had, and I did play this deck extensively on DN, the one problem I had is it's much like Tyrese said in that video. Once you draw these normals, specifically Kabazaz, once you draw those, then it really feels like a missed opportunity as far as the draw phase or opening hands, especially if you open with two vanillas, because especially with Kabazaz, he's weak. You know, this guy clashes with Thunder King, so that's pretty good. It's like you can make your opponent waste removal on a card you didn't want anyway. But when you start drawing him, it's like you have to put him on the field, hope for God that he lives, and then, have another Dino available. I do like about this deck is it does feel like almost the GB theory. Like, the longer the match goes against Dino Rabbit, it feels like it's more in their favor, because if I can sit on a Lagia who hasn't negated, and then I can get a Doka out, and you really haven't put any pressure on me, you're just trying to sit around looking for answers, it's going to be that much harder for you to have any type of chance to get back in the game, because now I can negate a spell with Trap or Summon, and I can negate monster effects, and a lot of times those monster effects are summons. When you're talking about Doka, it is like a Gores or maybe like a Mystic Tomato or something like that, so you can negate effects that would summon something onto the field. I really like this deck, and it's hard because it feels like Rabbit's biggest opponent is the monsters that make the deck good are these normals. Like, if you don't draw them and your deck is rolling, I will say this deck pretty much just steamrolls. Like, the matches aren't even close, where you open up with Rabbit and you make like Lagia, and then the next turn you go Tour Guide and make Doka. I mean, your opponent, if they don't have something, you basically just scoop it up. I also like this deck's ability to just completely be unaffected by Effect Veiler, which the only thing that hits in the deck is Tour Guide. And then even Max, see, I've had many times where I open up with Rabbit and I'll go to get two Sabersaurus and I'll go for the Levier play, and it's like, okay, you did go +1 on me because you got the draw when I summon these guys and you got the draw when I exceeded. But if I make Lagia and you have to play like D-Prison and then play Mirror Force, I mean, I still got my exchange back. I still got my 2-for-1. So it's not like Plants where you go Max C and they're just completely shut down, or they're going to give you like 8 cards. This deck is still in a pretty good position if you Max C them. Alright, my second deck, and I'll try and spend as little bit of time as possible on this. This is Plant Synchro. It is the most consistent deck of the format, not just by my regards, but by most people's regards. I do feel like the walls are kind of closing in. I'm not so sure how good Plant Synchro is going to be when it has potentially 3 other decks that all have this tier 1 potential, and everybody's so specifically concerned with plants. When you build a deck right now, the main deck you look for as far as headhunting is plants. These are the Green Bay Packers. I remember when, it's like, and it's been that way for the last year, when people built Gravekeepers and when, they built TGs, it's like, this is the matchup, the plant matchup. This is the matchup that you want, what this deck was built for. And these cards, these skill drains and Necro Valleys, these are the reasons the reason why you add these cards in, the reason why the deck is good is because it beats and cripples plants. So I'm not so sure that plants are going to be in a good position when you have all these decks. Every deck in the meta is headhunting for plants, but they can only side and they can only add in tech cards. They can only add so much in for Insectors and for Dino Rabbit. I'm not saying that it makes plants worse, but what I'm saying is you may see the success of plants go down because everybody's so concerned with this deck and beating it. I just think that there's only going to be so much room for other decks. That's why a lot of people say they hate formats where there's 10 decks that are viable, because you can't side for gadgets and every other deck out there and for Karakuri's and shit like that, but everybody is going to still side for plants. I also think because of the windups, because of the Insectors, plants are going to have to adjust their game, because you now have all these other different winning conditions, but your win condition has pretty much been the same exact way, and everybody knows what it is. So everybody has you fully scouted, but you're not really sure about what they're going to do and their power plays. So plants are still going to be a great deck. They're not going to go anywhere, but I think they may have to make some adjustments. Some of their ratios, like 3 Maxi to 2 Veiler, or 3 Maxi to 1 Veiler, might have to adjust back to 2 for 2, so on and so forth. And then my last deck, and this isn't the best representation. I probably should have had Armageddon Knight, which I don't have. I probably should have had Armageddon Knight instead of Foolish Burial, but obviously it's going to be Insectors. This is the deck that I currently play on Dueling Network. So if you see me with the Joy face, that chances are I'm playing Insectors, which I probably shouldn't have said that. Now everybody's gonna be, oh, I'm gonna build an anti-Insector deck and play capital G. Okay, but I've been playing this deck. It has been wildly consistent. The problems with this deck is it has a tendency to potentially start slow. For you to have an Insector but no Hornet, for you to have Hornet but no Insector inside, and you might have like a tour guide, and it's like, exactly how do I connect the dots? When you get the dots connected, this deck just starts rolling and it just starts blowing stuff up. Now the deck does kind of play like Gladiator Beast, where you can't fully make advantage unless your opponent has cards on the field, because you need to be able to blow stuff up with Hornet and Dragonfly and Centipede to really get the deck rolling. But there are situations where at the same time, you can just sit on a Dragonfly that's equipped, or a Centipede that's equipped, and if your opponent just wants to keep all their cards in their hand, perfectly fine. I'll just keep attacking. This deck has great outs to stuff like Gores and Trigodia, which other decks can completely struggle with. It controls the field, again, probably better than any deck in the format. And just some of the techs that I've looked at, things like Mystic Tomato and Fiendish Chain have been complete game changers. This is the card that, in my opinion, solely makes the matchup against Rabbit very, very winnable. I can't tell you how many times I've opened against Rabbit. They've made Lagia. They've ran into this. I've got Dragonfly, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna blow up your Lagia. I'm gonna blow up your Mirror Force. I'm gonna blow up your Lance, and then I'm just gonna poop on your face. Or, I'll have the same exact thing, and I'll have a Fiendish Chain, and they're like, all right, well, fuck it, I'm going to make Doka. And they'll attack, and I'll Fiendish Chain when they go to detach, and it's the same exact thing. Like, Tomato is such an MVP, and the Veiler plays and the Maxi plays don't work against that, especially if I get Armageddon Knight. You can't Veiler because it's in the battle phase, So I think this deck has been better than I expected. Now, that is not to say that the deck is beatable, because, oh my goodness, Effect Veiler can just wreck your freaking day. Seriously, it can make you just want to go in the bathroom and cry in a stall like a 17-year-old white girl who just got dumped at the prom. But, and I honestly think the meta will shift more towards running more copies of stuff like Effect Veiler and Fiendish Chain, which is going to in turn hurt Insectors, because these same cards that hurt this deck, from what I've seen, Chain Disappearance, Effect Veiler, Fiendish Chain hurt the windups. So it's like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I can hurt windups and I can hurt Insectors, and a lot of these cards are going to be decent against plants too, then why not run these cards as well? So I think that these are your big three. I've already talked about windups and what I think about that situation. Maybe I'll do a video on that later. So let me know what you guys think. And let me know if you could play one of these three decks, which deck you would play.